Hello to a new episode of ReptilTV, my intro animal, an albino piebald. And now take a look at this one. The albino piebalds often have these smiley faces on them, and this one here has quite nice eyes, and a mouth. So basically almost like a Halloween pumpkin. This wide grinning mouth, the two eyes above it, so it fits perfectly with Halloween. I specially bred this for you to coincide with Halloween so that it hatches just before Halloween. Therefore, my intro creature for you is a Halloween piebald, smiley, ball python. And for you as the intro creature, the theme of today's episode is most beautiful reptiles of the world. We kept it in English because everyone understands it a bit. It's a little international. The title itself is, of course, quite sensational again. It's another one of those AI-generated titles that the AI threw out as if that interests people. However, I also find it an interesting topic. It's all completely subjective, of course. This is my opinion of what I consider the most beautiful because there is no ranking in that sense or anything like that. That's purely my taste. But today I want to introduce you to the top 5 in this episode. I also don't have a ranking of number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or anything like that. I want to summarize all 5 as equal and start with the first animal. In my opinion, the reticulated python, Broghammerus reticulatus, belongs in this group, not just because it has the beautiful name Broghammerus. It is currently disputed between Malay python and Broghammerus, not for that reason, but because this reticulated python is simply stunning. The wild color is beautiful. This square pattern, checkered pattern that they have, I find it gorgeous, whether as a juvenile or as an adult. When we look at the color morphs of the reticulated python, the pattern remains with this checkered design, but the whole thing as lavender albino or as albino, I find it beautiful. And what adds to it is the body structure of the reticulated python. The reticulated python is a relatively slender snake, has a nicely defined, large, strong head. I find it simply perfect as a snake. Body structure, pattern, everything overall. It's a shame that they get so big. That's always the silly saying. In terms of beauty, in my opinion, of all snakes, I would place the reticulated python very high. Above, or probably the farthest. Starting from the top, the Panther Chameleons are also among the top 5. Camellia pardalis ne, Furcifer from pardalis. If you look around in advertising, how often is the Panther Chameleon misused for some kind of advertisement? Because it simply has such spectacular colors, especially the males, of course. There are beautiful colors in pardalis depending on the distribution area, ranging from blue to red to orange, turquoise. There are all kinds of colors. I think among lizards, the Panther Chameleon ranks very high in terms of beauty. That's why it's in my top 5. Then we stay with lizards, but something completely different from chameleons. Personally, I find the Gila monsters, Heloderma suspectum, definitely belong among the most beautiful reptiles there are. Some are downright pink or rose-colored. I also think the body structure is great with that massive head and those little button eyes, these loyal ones, so I would definitely include the Gila monster in the top 5 of the most beautiful reptiles. By the way, they are venomous. One of the few, or actually the only venomous lizards, we've already made episodes about Gila monsters. That doesn't diminish their beauty at all. A venomous lizard can also be beautiful, which is why it belongs in the top 5. What must not be missing from the top 5 is also the king python. Although I must admit I find the normal king python to be one of the most beautiful snakes. but I wouldn't go so far as to say it belongs among the most beautiful reptiles there are. But the color variants that we have by now, and here I want to specifically highlight Super Treble and Super Pastel. So these colors, white with this neon yellow in it, and then this flank pattern, this color contrast, I find absolutely phenomenal. Of course, one can argue about that. When I say the 5 most beautiful reptiles, should a color mutation be included or not? If anyone thinks otherwise, feel free to post in the comments along the lines of, well, it's nonsense if I include color mutations here. I have to agree to some extent. We could have left that out. However, I couldn't bring myself to leave out the king pythons, or in particular, such an incredible color mutation. That's why I included them. If you look at this animal, you have to admit that this snake belongs in the top 5 of the most beautiful reptiles. Also, visually spectacular but still relatively rare in the terrarium hobby are the New Zealand geckos, Naultinus, elegans. As mentioned, they are very rare in the terrarium hobby. To my knowledge, New Zealand has never exported these animals, at least not to the private trade or to private keepers or terrarium enthusiasts. Animals have likely been exported to zoos in the last few decades, and this practice probably goes back even further. There are very few animals that can actually prove they come from legal breeding stock. Unfortunately, there are still very few such animals in the field of terroristics. I think that in the coming years, they will hopefully be bred more and more so that they might find their way into terroristics. This green color is just beautiful. In my opinion, they almost look like amphibians. One would almost have to know that they belong to the gecko family, as visually you wouldn't suspect it at all. Just this green, then these white stripes on it. As I said, similar to like a newt, like a salamander. It reminds me a bit of a type of fire salamander with different colors. I find them beautiful, and I hope that they will be more available in terroristics soon. Therefore, they belong in my top 5 of the most beautiful reptiles. That was the episode on the most beautiful reptiles. Of course, that was definitely just my opinion. When I was preparing the episode, to be honest, I also opened Google, typed in most beautiful reptiles, and went to the images section, where a lot came up to simply get ideas. I mean, a few things immediately came to mind, like the reticulated python and the Panther Chameleon also popped into my head right away. But for other things, I drew inspiration from the Google photos. I'm excited to hear from you. Please write in the comments what your most beautiful reptiles are, or maybe we can somehow do a little poll later on once we have a few suggestions from you. Perhaps we can create a ranking. I'm really looking forward to your comments. Otherwise, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and stay loyal to me while checking out the most beautiful reptiles of the world.